Damian, thank you so much for joining us today. We super appreciate you being here. So just to start things off, let me ask you, what was your personal experience with handbells? How did you discover handbells? Why did you decide to feature them in your songs?
Um, I played handbells in, I believe it was first grade, at in elementary school, and I guess it just stuck with me. I didn't. I was. We were recording our third album in Fredonia, New York, with Dave Fridman, and trying to figure out what should play the solo in this particularly sort of dreamlike song. And um, I don't know where it came from. It just like popped back from my unconscious. I was like handbells, handbells, handbell, and I this goes to show what a horrible human I am. I was like. I was like, oh, we'll be able to get a set of handbells on eBay for like nothing because nobody plays handbells, because I did the thing that you do, that like I had the same same reaction to like Disneyland and Scooby Doo, which is things that you did when you were a little kid, you forget that other people still do.
Okay.
Like you had a moment with it, and you're like, oh well, that now that period of the world is over. And I remember going online and being like, oh my goodness, look at this! There's a whole universe of handbells, and we rented a set of handbells to try to do that solo. And I'm sorry to say, it sounded terrible. We didn't use it, not only because we were bad handbell players, but because it was just not the right sound for that. And that is frequently the case with our creative endeavors in general, is that like you have to try a million things before you figure out the one that is somehow magical. But in the process of doing that, I fell back in love with the instrument and the people who are really great at it. And after that record was finished, sort of went down the rabbit hole a little bit more. There's a group in Los Angeles called the Alchemy Ensemble. Do you
Yes,
remember that group?
Baldmore, Baldmore.
Yeah. And and at the time, I don't know if they're still, like, I've recently gone and looked for their stuff. Doesn't seem like they have continued to. I can't find as much of their stuff as I could 15 years ago. But I was amazed, and so I went to where they were. I went to the church where they rehearse and perform, and watched them a few times, and just had my mind blown. And just sort of fell in love with the instrument.
That's awesome.
Well, welcome back to the fold. Welcome back to the dark
Thank
side.
you. I wish I could say that we deserve a spot here. We do not have either the technique or the patience to gain the technique that we need to become truly good players. But
That's always
we
the
like.
thing.
No, but you have a platform and an audience,
Yeah.
and in helping get just bells in front of people
Mhm.
is appreciated so much.
Well, what I love about handbells and about I guess collaborative music in general is how visceral it makes the thing that is already at the heart of music. Sorry, that's so abstract. I'll say that again. What I love about handbells is that they sort of explode what is so beautiful about music in the first place. The 1 + 1 = 5 million quality, right? Like that. Like there's no reason why a a sound wave should turn into my soul as joy or sadness or fury or lust or all of them at once if I'm really lucky. Like all of the feelings in this deep well of human soul type of way. It's just an oscillation in the air, right? Like it shouldn't feel like that. And yet, when you add two notes together, you start getting these emotions, and when you start adding those chords together, you get even deeper emotions. And a lot of times that's just two sounds together equal a third sound. But every once in a while, you get this sort of magical, this magical alchemy, literally, into a different, a sort of different territory. And handbells make it so clear that you're like, I'm just doing one note, and she's just doing one note, and yet together suddenly music, and that kind of like atomizing of the process really like makes sensible the collaborative nature of it, and how much we all rely on each other as we're playing, and how much the sort of collective emotional result is it relies on all of us. And now, like coming from the other direction, when real handbell players see us, they're you know, scandalized because we're not very, because our technique is bad, and we're not great handbell players. But that element is there, right? That like all it really, like we're not the world's greatest guitarists either. Like, and in fact, there's only one greatest guitarist in the world out there somewhere, and who knows who she is, right? Like it's not about being the best in the world. It's about feeling that the way music connects us to
Oh my
one another.
gosh,
Yes.
And
my language.
and I love, I mean, and what I love about handbells is it's like it puts anyone anywhere, like it immediately shows you that like your job is to play this note right before they play that note, and they'll play that note again, and then you play this note back, and together you guys will become divine. And that is like utter, like, yeah, and there's no learning your finger technique on the piano, and there's no learning chord shapes on guitar. It's just literally like hit the thing.
Yes.
Hit the
No,
thing and you'll feel God. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
you once called handbells an instrument that God himself invented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. If you've heard the thing, the snarky things I've said on stage, I apologize for all of them.
Right. Um, but okay, so I've seen, of course, back was it 2010, 2011 when you did Return
Hmm.
live with handbells, and since then, you've done Kneading, Getting, and most recently, I mean, even just in April of this year, shooting the moon, and you're still using them on stage. So what keeps you using them? Why do you keep using them?
It is that uh, I'm going to give you another long-winded answer. Okay.
Go right
Um,
ahead.
Sure.
the the thing about a live show that is so um, wonderful is that is the connection of the humans, right? Like we can all listen to amazing music on headphones, and there's nothing that can be an incredible experience. We can all go into our own little world of sonic bliss, but that won't do the thing that a live concert does, where like that people in the audience, your heartbeat actually starts to align with the singers and with the other players, and like that there's this very physical, unconscious connection between all of us that is so much bigger and more amazing than anything you're going to get through your screen, or you're going to get through your headphones, or the set of speakers in your studio. Um, and that's all, like that really is at the heart of what all that we're doing. Like we're obviously a band known for our ridiculous over the top videos, and all of those really are is an attempt to get back to that sense of connection and joy, because it's so hard to do through a screen otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Seeing somebody play an acoustic guitar on YouTube doesn't have the effect of sitting in front of somebody playing an acoustic guitar in the room, right? Um, and that sense of connection is already why we're out there on tour playing shows. But even there on stage, right in front of you, we've all gotten so good at sort of um, reading the production, I guess is the best way to say it. Like we know how to translate the magic and go, like um, we've seen, flashing lights and heard incredible guitar tones so many times that we're not going to be that you start to sort of gloss over in the way that you do when you're watching Star Wars, let's say. Like it's incredible that we're flying through outer space, but your brain knows like that's not really outer space. It's kind of, it's like, and there's something about the majesty of a rock show where it's like it'll blow your mind for 3 songs, let's say 10 songs if you're really lucky, but you will always sort of gloss over into this world of like you're back in your own world a little bit. And so what we want to do is break that and go like and remind everybody, no matter how exciting the rest of this is, like all we're doing is like lining up a couple of little events for you to feel with us. you know, and that magical quality of music that 1 + 1 = 5 million is like could not be more on display than when you can see with your own two eyes that like everybody up there is allowed to play one note per hand, or if they're really really good at it, they can switch notes, or maybe if they can hold two bells at once, like, which we can't do, you know. But they're like, but you know. By contrast, you can now make a guitar make almost any sound, and when you're in the audience, it's hard to tell what's coming to that thing, but you can always tell when someone's played that handbell, you know. And it's not so much about that about any direct proof. It's just about pulling away any other indicator that there's a space between us, right? Like if we could do it without microphones, that would be even better, you know. Just hear this thing. And
There's intimacy and immediacy that brings.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I also just love that there's there's the handbells on one axis are basically the simplest instrument you can have, right? Like it's they're not the range of expression is pretty much one axis, right? How hard are you hitting that thing? And of course, there like you know there are lots of small variations you can do on top of all that, but like it is not from an audience perspective, the note is either on or off.
yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like it is just there's something so nice about bringing it down to that perfectly simple level. You can tell how much coffee I had today. The like when I was a kid, I listened to Prince all the time, and it never made me want to make music. And I've wondered why, and I realized it was because he's so good. He's
Yeah.
so virtuosic that I loved listening to it. It blew my mind, but it never even occurred to me that was something a human could make,
It was
right?
relatable, right?
Right.
But it was punk music as a teenager where I was like, oh, I could do this, right? And like, and not just because there were like people were bad at it, you know, some of it was a different emotional quality and everything, but like, but that there's, you know, again, relating to our videos, if we, they're only amazing to people because we make it very clear how we're doing this thing and make it very clear there's no magic involved, and go like, you know, like if you're going to see people dancing on treadmills, they're not good dancers, they're us. Like we're like, you can see how like the anxiety on our faces because we're not good at this. And like we're just like you, we just happen to spend 10 days trying to learn this. Like anybody who spent 10 days trying to do this would be just as good at this as we are. And there's something about handbells that has, no matter how beautiful and amazing the performance, like, and I've seen people who do shocking things with handbells, it's still like there's no time where it ever turns to like an unbelievable unrelatable event. You're always just hearing like that one went dinkle and that one went ding and that one don't, you like, and that's it. All of this came from just the ding dong ding.
So you talk a lot about collaboration and human connection and everything, and you guys used what was that on the Invisible Made Visible show when you did that? You had an app that the audience used to play along with you, and so and I think I just read that you were one of the people who designed the actual app, so you do software as well.
Andy, our guitarist Andy is a programmer, so he wrote that app. I mean, I helped design it in broad strokes, but it's really his work.
Okay, cool. So wow, how did you decide to do an app of all things? I mean, was it just because you're
Well,
a programmer and you said, hey, let's do an app, or?
I'm back to the same ball of yeah, of
Get them involved.
this. I'm sorry, I keep on just going on to my little rants. It the idea, like what we wanted to do. This was a collaboration we did with This American Life. They were doing they were trying to do a live show that would happen in movie theaters simultaneously across the country.
Ah, okay.
And so the idea was, how do you do something? How do you collaborate with people across space and time like that? Like, it's ostensibly real time. But of course, you can't really, you never know what the lag is or whatever. But it was sort of like, what can we do? How can we be in the room with those people? And and how can we bring them on stage with us, whether or not it's the people literally in the room that we were in or in any of these theaters. And I don't remember the ideation process getting to there, but I do remember how that we knew we sort of nailed it when it was like, yeah, everybody has this recording device and instrument and filmmaking machine and everything. Like everybody has one of these. So if we can tell this to be a handbell, then everybody can play with us. And one version was maybe we actually had one for a while where you just do this, you ring your bell this way, and it that was fun, but it was a little it relied too much on people to already get the feeling of collaboration, that you're going to have one or two rings in the next 18 bars. You know what I mean? Like and then we so we tried a couple different things and realized that the Guitar Hero model works pretty well, which is don't expect people to read sheet music. We're terrible sight readers ourselves. Like just have people's notes come to them. And when they're like, and give them 3 notes each, and everybody can, like, as long as it's doesn't start too complicated, everybody can have fun doing it, and the cloud of mistakes will be beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. Like as long as this song isn't too non-diatonic, like then it'll just be these extended beautiful chord shapes when people are kind of and so we arrange the piece so that most of the important lines were like, if you really needed to hear a melody line or spell out the chords, we were doing it on stage with handbells. But everybody in the audience had their virtual handbells and could hear, everyone's speaker was all the way up. And when you have, whatever, a couple thousand of these at once playing with the variety of people's rhythmic senses and hand-eye coordination, you get these beautiful clouds of chords that sort of shift along with the music, and it was really, really fun. And
So I'm just curious, with all the stuff you've done, with all the wacky, weird, different, unusual, didn't think that could be a music thing or whatever, how does the creative process go for you guys? Like, how does something start? Where ideas obviously come from a bunch of different places, but after the idea is there, how does it run?
Well, it gets a little semantic in terms of what's an idea and what is not. But I'm in the middle of actually thinking this through for a talk I have to give, and I will give you this version. The most sort of light bulb moment we ever have is very small. It's sort of like, oh, look at that, that's cool. Right. And after that, everything is a process of play and discovery that, like, we, especially in today's world of infinite content, so to speak. That word always gets me, but where everybody's got basically the whole mode, the whole means of production of Hollywood and professional studios and everything all in their pocket, and the distribution network for it with social media. There's the idea that you're going to sit down and think through a bunch of interesting combinations of things that will be fresh and surprising and unique to people is insane. The only way you can really discover that thing is to put yourself in a position that other people generally aren't in, and start figuring out where the surprises are. Like, yeah. Now, to be clear, novelty and newness are not the only way that things are emotional or meaningful. In fact, sometimes they mask that, because it's easy to be sort of like wowed by novelty and then realize that had no emotion to it whatsoever. But I do think that, like, that feeling of creativity, that feeling of things lining up unexpectedly, has a lot to do with surprise and a subversion of your expectations, right? That like this isn't what you thought it was, and so you are sort of definitionally looking for things that line up in an unexpected way, and if you are sitting there just planning that in your head, you are basically already lost because you're lining up your expectations, right? Like you
Yeah.
go like, what would be the weirdest thing that I could think of next? But that like that will the way you're going to test that is going, well, how would I feel if that were to happen? You're already, it's just a whole slew of expectations and what you think is going to happen. Whereas if you like when you put a bunch of handbells on a table and say, like what you find you're good at, what you find sounds good, what you find is interesting is not at all what you thought it was going to be. You know, like, yes, you need some sort of armature of a plan, like, let's try to play this piece or let's try to play that. But like, it turns out to be not quite what, oh, you know, it's sort of boring or it's much more repetitive than I thought it was. Or I really thought that big low sound was going to be so big and boomy and exciting and really kind of just like you hear the clang and then some low end, but it doesn't do the thing. Or, you know, what like, and that is all in the world of handbells, but it's the same thing in filmmaking or in songwriting or in you know, like engineering a Rube Goldberg machine. Like you're not though. Like the only real thing is to be really honest with yourself about what your reaction to what you just experienced was, and to be able to see sort of a finer grain of detail in events around you where most people might go like, yeah, I've seen that before, and you go, I've seen that before, but did you notice how it felt kind of different at the end? Or yeah, it didn't work, but this part did. Or I thought, yes, I felt mostly anxiety, but there was a part of it that actually made me feel strangely safe. You know, like that kind of like is if you can start to pull out those little internal responses, then you can start to line things up in a way that you couldn't have planned without the experience.
There's got to be some sort of experimentation, trial and error type stuff. Because, like you said, if you do it all, try to plan it all from the get go, you're I guess not leaving room for the creative muse to kind of
Totally. So, like with our mirrors and robots video, it literally started with a me seeing a mirror a mirrored toy of my kids on the floor sitting next to a mirror on the wall and picking it up and going, oh my gosh, there's that reflection of a reflection thing that I remember from my parents opening closet doors that face each other, right? And I was like, that's a big sandbox, I think, right? Like there's more than one trick here. And thinking through it a little bit, and yeah, I think this is good. And that's the only, like that was the only aha of the whole thing. And then after that, it's writing to a friend of mine who I know is a very good technologist and director and saying, I got an idea to do with mirrors and I think we'd probably need robots to make it work. Do you know any good roboticists? And from the and then he was in, and then it like we talked a little bit, but basically the roboticist and my collaborator, I mean both are collaborators, but the roboticist and the director friend came to LA and we spent a full week just playing with mirrors. Like going, what if we did this? What if we did this? And we're not at any point in there trying to go, okay, what does the video look like or feel like yet? We're just going, here are all the things we could build an idea out of. And it's really at that point it's just building a vocabulary with which to later have an idea. I would like, for me, it doesn't even feel like an idea yet. It's just building the sandbox and figuring out what's in there. Then in a couple of other test sessions later, we're ready to start, you know, making an actual plan.
I think that's literally how probably most of our handbell special techniques were invented, is people just messing around, playing, experimenting, having fun, misbehaving perhaps, whatever.
Yeah.
Something comes out of it. So I hope that we'll have a lot more opportunities to do some stuff with you guys. It's so refreshing to hear people in mainstream music refer to handbells as real music.
Yes.
Because that's the stigma we've been fighting to, you know, get that we're not real music, to get out of that people think it's just a little novelty toy at Christmas. And it is that, but it can be so much more. So thank you for what you guys are doing to raise the awareness. And, you know, let us know. Michelle's an expert handbell technician and can help you guys with your technique. And We can have you guys to one of our national seminars and stuff. Like we'll teach you some more bell stuff.
We're ready. We're ready to learn. We're ready to become. We are currently in the 7-year-old mode, and we're ready to move towards the Prince mode, Prince of handbells.